إِذَا دَعَانِ. I respond to the call of those who pray when they pray. So prayer or supplication is one of the foundational worships in Islam, making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As a matter of fact, if you make dua to someone other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you end up committing shirk, the greatest and the most heinous crime in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are certain times when dua is more likely to be answered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than to be rejected. There are certain conditions in which dua is more likely to be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like when you are traveling, there is more likeliness of your dua being accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Likewise, in one hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us about that dua which receives the quickest response from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Guess which dua is that which receives the quickest response from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Dua the oppressed one? No, the dua that receives the quickest response from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No.
When you do someone bad and stuff, that dua and stuff, which is something like Brother Salih said, the press one.
So, you want to know? The dua that receives the quickest response from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the dua that you make for someone who's in absence. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, أسرع الدعاء إجابة دعاء غائب لغائب. When you make dua for your brother who is not with you, who is not listening to you, who is not in your presence, and out of your love for him, out of your kindness and your care and your concern for him, you make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for whatever. Let's say someone is going through a trouble and you make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, oh Allah, exonerate him, oh Allah, help him. Or someone lost a job, you make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, oh Allah, give him a better job. Or someone lost a spouse, you make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, oh Allah, give him a better spouse. Or you make dua for someone, whatever they are going through, you know, or even if you don't know their specific condition, but you make dua for them to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala while they don't even know. That is the dua that receives the quickest response from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How amazing is that? So, which means you should from time to time request your friends, your brothers to make dua for you. And the Prophet ﷺ taught us that as well. Once Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma was traveling and he was going on a journey. And he came to say goodbye to the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ went a little distance with him to see him off. And when he finally said goodbye to him, he made him a request. He said, Ya ukhayya la tansana min du'aik. Oh my little brother, my younger brother, don't forget me in your dua. Now here's the Prophet ﷺ who doesn't need anyone's dua, but he's setting an example. You should not hesitate or shy from even asking someone who's younger than you for dua for you. Ask them, brother, please make dua for me. Maybe they will remember sometime and they may make dua right away for you, or they may make dua later for you. But when you make dua for someone who's not there, that dua receives the quickest response from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there's a reason for that, because that dua meets all the requirements of ikhlas. That dua is purely for your love for that person and your concern for that person. You're not showing off. You're not trying to prove to that person that I make dua for you. You're doing it out of your love for that person, your concern for that person. Only Allah knows and you know. Imagine on the day of judgment, when you come before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts showing you, look, this was the dua that brother made for you. This is the dua that brother made for you. This is the dua that brother made for you. So you better have something for others too. So you can also present to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, "Oh Allah, I was also making dua for these people." Be grateful and never shy to ask others to make dua for you. Make it a habit. Whenever you meet someone, ask them, "Please make dua for me. Don't forget me in your dua." And I'm asking all of you to make dua for me. Wa akhiru da'wana.
YouTube